Well, on today's episode, we're going to do a couple of reviews here. The first two are from GCW with Tournament Survival 7 that took place on June 4th, and of course, Cage of Survival with on June 5th, and also we got Jersey Championship Wrestling or JCW that took place with Fully Loaded also on the day of Cage of Survival on the 5th of June. We're also going to review one particular match that features the debut of Tokyo Yoshio Pro Wrestling star Miyu Yamashita, where she teams up with Sky Blue to take on Nyla Rose and Serena Deeb. And of course, we got a interesting developments with Stardom with their upcoming event, Fight to the Top, with their press conference. We're going to reveal what matches will be taking place. And of course, we got some news updates that I really want to share with everybody. But first things first, before I must give you guys a heads up. Right when the GCW Tournament of Survival was already been reviewed, recorded it a day before. If you guys notice, I'm wearing a different t-shirt. I was wearing a tank top because it was hot, so I couldn't have time to watch any other reviews. But I will do Tuesday Wrestling as soon as possible. But right now, let's get started with another episode of Deleted WrestleZone.
Are you ready? Get up, get up! 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 Get up, get up!
Welcome everybody to Deleted WrestleZone, all things that is pro wrestling with AEW, NXT, New Japan Pro Wrestling, Impact Wrestling, the National Wrestling Alliance, various promotions, wrestlers, matches, and championships. I am your host, Gerard here. So let's begin with JCW Tournament Survival 7 that took place on the 4th of June. Now, as you know what this one is all tournament of death matches. Now, if you guys are not a fans of death matches, that's fine. At least you learn something else. Now, keep in mind, each match, they bring in different type of toys. It starts out with 4 matches in the first round, and then we have two semifinal round matches, and then we jump into the semifinals. However, we also announced the Deathmatch Hall of Fame. As you know, these are wrestlers who, in fact, are in the Hall of Fame, but who, in fact, walked out as the winner. Well, we'll see. Now, let's go with our first 4 matches in the first round. First match, we got Hoodfoot versus the Queen of the Death Matches, Rina Yamashita. Now, if you guys never heard of her, Rina Yamashita has been making headways as a deathmatch wrestler with promotions like Freedoms. I'm not sure about other places like Big Japan, but she's been making her appearance there. But she's also a good, capable wrestler whenever it comes not involving death matches. Her opponent is someone who you may have seen on many occasions, is Hoodfoot. I've seen him with IWA Deep South, and he has been making headways in GCW recently. But I like how Rina was trying to play mind games with Hoodfoot in order to win the event, and it was pretty cool. I like how she thought what she was planning to do, but however, she did walk out as the victor and of course gain respect with Hoodfoot. Our next match, we have Slade versus Matt Tremont. Now, if you guys know who he is also one of the he is Nick Gage's tag team partner for Hater Club. I thought it was great to see him, but you know, Mark Tremont, as you know, he recently retired from GCW, and then he came back, and now he's kicking more ass as he normally would. But his opponent is Slade, someone who we've seen, but it was Mark Tremont who picked up a very tight victory against him. Our next match, we have another Japanese sensation, Toru Segura versus Shane Mercer. Now, this match, I wasn't entirely sure how this, because I seen Toru Segura many times with Freedoms on maybe whenever I got the chance to see them. However, seeing him against um, Shane Mercer, that was a different story. But I did not anticipate Shane Mercer taking a lot of the blood, but it was Toto Segura who walked out as the victor. I think it was pretty interesting to see that, but I would have expected Shane. But it is what it is. Next up, we got the Wild Heart Cole Radrick versus Drew Parker. Now, if you guys never heard of Drew Parker has been the Ultraviolent champion before until Alex Colon defeated him for the title. Drew Parker has made a lot of headways in the deathmatch scenes, primarily in Japan, with, of course, he appeared in Big Japan Pro Wrestling. He won several tournaments there. It was very interesting. But however, previously, a week before that, he was supposed to be in a tag team match with Rena, but he was unable to do due to the injury. So I thought it was interesting. But that match was pretty good between Radrick and Parker. I was like amazed with the whole thing. I mean, Cole Radrick, who's been making headways as a deathmatch wrestler, Drew Parker, who's a sensation in that, amazing. But it was Drew Parker who walked out as the victor. I was like, oh man, it was a really close decision for me to decide who was gonna be. But wow, I loved it. Now we jumping into like in between before we jump into the semifinal rounds. We had the GCW Extreme title in the 6-man scramble match. We have Nick Wayne versus Yuya versus Jordan Oliver versus Lindsay Snow versus Sawyer Wreck, and of course finally our champion AJ Gray. Now this match, as you know, anything could go in any way possible. That's the way it goes in this type of match, because you know anything is predictable. There's 6 people, you could lose track. But I had that distinct feeling that AJ Gray will retain the title because he has been a fighting champion no matter where he goes in GCW. That's always been clear to me. But he did put, I believe, a modified power bomb onto the super bomb onto Yoya atop of the turnbuckle. I thought it was nuts, but that did help him to retain the title. Now our next 2 matches are the semifinals of the Tournament of Survival 7. We have match number 1, Matt Tremont versus Toto Sugiura. I thought this match was pretty good because, you know, Tremont, I'm not sure if he's one of those wrestlers during GCW's time that he traveled to Japan. I'm not 100% sure about that. I know they have been traveling in far reaches wherever death matches is popular. And I thought this match exactly was going to be exactly how I predicted was going to be with Matt Tremont, because Tremont is trying to get back in the game as a top GCW wrestler, mostly in the deathmatch scene. But I was right. He did pick up a very good victory against Toto Segura. I thought it was great. Now our next match, we have Rina Yamashita versus Drew Parker. That match was good. But the one thing I didn't notice is how Rina Yamashita was able to, try to use that injured leg on Drew Parker to slow him down. But however, it was no avail. Drew Parker, who's been considered one of the best deathmatch wrestlers in the world, proven why he is the best, and that's exactly what he did. He picked up a really good win against her. Now, before we jump into the finals, we had introduction of the wrestlers, the deathmatch wrestlers in the Hall of Fame, talking about this and that, until the party was interrupted by none other than the cocky John Wayne Murdoch. Now, you probably ask, why is John Wayne Murdoch interrupted? Simple. He believes that he is the true deathmatch wrestler, that he is the real foundation of it. Everyone else that they're in, they're a bunch of has-beens that have no business being there. And I think that, but however, good thing Alex Colon showed up. As you know, he hasn't forgotten what Murdoch has been done. Ever since, here's the way it goes. If you follow the story, John Wayne Murdoch hasn't been with GCW for 2 years, and then all of a sudden he comes back, try to claim his throne. While you have guys like Alex Colon, who's been killing it on this in GCW, and I think that kind of tells us in every aspect that Alex Colon thinks John Wayne Murdoch has no business being back with GCW, and luckily he had the Hall of Famers who had his back to deal with John Wayne Murdoch. But we will see those two face off for the Ultraviolent Championship at Cage of Steel. Now let's get to our main event, which is the finals of the Tournament of Survival 7. Now this match, is going to be insane. We have two of the most best wrestlers right now. Now you got Mark Drummond, as I mentioned, who is trying to get back in the game. As you know, he left GCW. I think he retired as a wrestler, but he also ran his own promotion called H2O, or as Hardcore Hustler Organization. But I have to say he really got back on the game. But the real question, you're facing a sensation outside of the US. I mean, mostly we've seen him in Big Japan Pro Wrestling. He's been making headways there a lot. But how this worked, well, I did not anticipate for Drew Parker to win. And I thought it was pretty cool, interesting. But Drew Parker is a strong wrestler, so he picked up the win in this one. Well, what's done is done. We'll see what Drew Parker will get out of this and move on to the next segment. I believe we're doing the other GCW event, Cage of Steel. Okay, so first thing first, I want to apologize at the ending of the first review. Things didn't go according to plan for me because if you guys have noticed, I'm currently still on vacation in San Carlos, Sonora, Mexico. We're not that far off from Guaymas. I was planning to watch Jersey Championship Wrestling on this part, but however, I couldn't resist to watch the other GCW event, Cage of Survival, so let's do that right now. It opened up with a 7-way scramble match, and it's for the GCW Extreme title. Here, so we have Cole Radrick versus Mike Bailey versus Jordan Oliver versus Jimmy Lloyd versus Nick Wayne versus Akira, and of course versus our champion AJ Gray. Now, this type of match, it's going to be. But however, there is the factors where Nick Wayne and Jordan Oliver will be teaming up as much as possible, but sometimes things will not go according to plan. But it was Mike Bailey who stood toe-to-toe with the Black Death himself, AJ Gray, until he busted him with the lariat, and boom, 1, 2, 3, it's over. Excuse me, AJ Gray retained the title. Our next match, we have Lufisto taking on the Moscow, Masha Slamovich. Now, this started out with Lufisto right away jumped onto Masha to attack her, but Masha, she's a tough cookie. She's not gonna take this lightly, but it was surprisingly that she beat her in every aspect. I did not anticipate that, but Masha is one of the most wrestlers that is well recognized today, and I think she's going to be one of the most popular wrestlers we get to enjoy and watch. Next match, we have the return of Iron Beast, KTP, who we haven't seen for quite some time, teaming up with his partner Shane Mercer to take on Second Gear Crew, the Southern Psycho Mance Warner, and Matthew Justice. Now, you know how these teams are. They're two of the most toughest SOBs on the planet. But when it comes to Second Gear Crew, they're going to bring out the toys to beat the competition. And that's exactly what was going to take place until they pinned KTP, and it was over. 1, 2, 3, second gear crew, dominant as always they've been. Next match, we have Sawyer Wreck taking on the bad boy, Joey Janela. Now, this, I have to say, is one of the most impressive matches I've ever watched. The reason I say this is because I have to say, Sawyer, she never backs down from a fight. No matter what Joey Janela tried to do to put away Sawyer, she kicks out until finally Sawyer chokeslammed him through the door, and 1, 2, 3, it's over. I'm like, wow, that was a pretty impressive match. Now our next match is the GCW World Title #1 contendership. However, this was supposed to be Matt Cardona, but as you know, he injured his biceps. He shows up in a wheelchair and a neck brace, acting like he's injured, and people were flipping him off and all this. So basically, I don't know what he was trying to do. Because the one thing we know for sure, he would do anything in his power to get the GCW World Title back on his waist like he did last time. But however, he has to go through Blake Christian. But Blake Christian shows up, pour his heart out, and he tricked Matt Cardona. And I'm sure everyone in GCW are just plain happy for what transpired. So I think that kind of tells us, well, Matt Cardona, you are the pieces of garbage in the planet, so you got what you deserve. And I think that's what people wanted to see. Next match, we got Toru Sugiura teaming up with Rina Yamashita to take on Mexican wrestlers Los Macizos, consisted of Ciclopes and Miedo Extremo. Now, I haven't been aware of Ciclopes before. He's been with DTU, another promotion involved with death matches, and I believe that's where these guys are originally from. They're from that promotion. If you guys haven't seen them, they're pretty awesome. But it was a pretty good match. I have to say, it was amazing. I think seeing Macizos come to the States after a long time, as you know, because of COVID, they were unable to make it back. They had the tag team titles with them in their possession the entire time until this happened. But now that everything is getting a little back to normal, they were amazing, and Los Macizos picked up a very strong victory against Sugiura and Yamashita. Now our main event is for the GCW Ultra Violent Cage of Survival match. Now, this is between two wrestlers, the past and the present. You have the present, Alex Colon, the Blood Fighter, who has been making a name for himself in GCW for a long time now. John Wayne Murdoch, who's been out of GCW for 2 months, participating in other death matches, felt that, he's being overlooked, like he's been forgotten by many. Now, Alex Colon has been proven to be a fighting champion, but he has demanded for this particular match. But John Wayne Murdoch is willfully determined, saying that GCW is still his house. It would not have existed if it wasn't for him. But however, it was the current roster, whoever gets involved in death matches, that made it what they are. And Alex Colon is no exception, because he's always been that guy that tries to continue on with death matches as in every way possible. But it was through him who picked up the victory on Murdoch and regained the Ultra Violent Championship from Murdoch. So that makes him a 3-time champion for the Ultra Violent. So I thought this was pretty good. I enjoyed the show. Can't wait to see what's going to be next with GCW. But right now, let's move on with the other show, JCW Fully Loaded. Okay, so let's talk about JCW, or Jersey Championship Wrestling, with Fully Loaded, that also took place on the Cage of Survival. This was before that. We have our opening match, Azrael versus Dylan McKay. Now, Dylan has always been one of the most impressive wrestlers I've ever watched since I started watching GCW and other promotions. But I was amazed with this match, and it was Dylan McKay who walked out as the victor with a pinfall. 1, 2, 3, good night, Azrael. Next up, we got women's wrestling. We have Lindsay Snow versus the Kick Demon, Janai Kai. Now, you know Janai Kai. She is the kick demon for a reason. You know she's going to kick the living crap out of you no matter what, or kick you in your face. That's the kind of thing. And I think that shows us. But it was that impressive spinning heel kick that, or spinning Enzuigiri, whatever they call that, that sealed the deal for Janai Kai to beat Lindsay Snow. And I thought she's always been impressive, despite the fact that she wrestles without shoes. It doesn't change a thing. Next up, we got Young, Dumb, and Broke. Charlie Tiger, Ellis Taylor taking on Edith, Sorrell, and Steve Scott. I have to say this was a pretty good match. Now, I do like the name Young, Dumb, and Broke because it sounds a little bit silly, but it is who they are because they are young. They're young, hungry wrestlers. That's always been their trademark. Jordan Oliver's a member of that group, if you guys knew that. But it was Young, Dumb, and Broke who won the victory when they pinned, I don't remember who was it, but it was great. I enjoyed every moment of this match. Next up, we got Yo-Yo taking on the other member of Young, Dumb, and Broke, Jordan Oliver. I have to say, this was a very much impressive match because I've been a fan of Jordan Oliver and Yo-Yo for a long time, for about 2 years now, and I think they are very impressive. But it was Jordan Oliver who walked out as the victor when he pinned Yo-Yo 1, 2, 3. Good night, Yo-Yo. Next up, we got Bam Sullivan taking on One Called Matters. Now, this match was another ball buster, hardcore death match, however you want to call it. You know Bam Sullivan's going to bring out the toys. So is Manders. It doesn't matter how. That's how it is. But it was Manders to put him in a driver, C4 driver or whatever they call that, into the tables. Put Sullivan through those tables, and 1, 2, 3, he was out. So I thought it was impressive. Next match, we got Alec Price versus Grim Reaper. Now, Reaper has always been one of those wrestlers you know you can enjoy because he smokes, when he lights it up. But this time it did not happen. Alec Price was the one who walked out with the pinfall, giving him the victory on this one. Next up, we got the GCW Tag Team titles. Marcus Mathers and Billy Starks taking on Bussy, LA Catch, and Effie. Now, this is one of those matches you know is going to be good because Marcus Mathers and Billy Starks, I don't know if they teamed up before, but they kind of did pull up. But however, Marcus Mathers, he was conflicted because either A, you have to cross the line to pick up a victory. That means you have to use a damn chair. That's what you have to do. That's what the GCW's titles are all about. Use the goddamn weapons. That's how it works. But he did, but it wasn't enough. Basically, he still had a clear conscience. It was Effie who walked out as the victor to retain the titles with Alley Catch, and Bussy is still alive. Now, before things end, we had Billy Dixon coming out to say goodbye to his fan base. Don't know exactly what was going on. He was giving a heartwarming speech, but his moment was ruined by the root of all evil and that piece of garbage, Charles Mason, who thinks that Dixon wasted his time. Look, Dixon, he likes to get all the attention. That's his. Mason is all about getting the attention. That's always been his case. But luckily, members of the roster come out for the save, but it was already a little bit of too late to try to get him not to get hurt. But it is what happens. But sooner or later, Charles Mason is gonna have his due when the root of all evil is no longer evil anymore. So let's move on to our next review, which is the match with Miyu Yamashita. Now, for all you people out there who, from day one when AEW came around, you ask yourselves, will we ever see Miyu Yamashita make her appearance? Well, like they always say, ask and you shall deliver, or you shall be delivered, however you want to call it. I was surprised, to be honest with you, when I heard that Miyu Yamashita was going to make her debut on AEW Dark, teaming with Sky Blue, taking on Nyla Rose and Serenity. Now, before you guys ask me, did they ever consider bringing her in? If that's what you guys are asking. Well, when AEW first started out, Kenny went on a show with Riho to be for DDT for Wrestle Peter Pan and Saitama, I think, yes. Anyway, they were doing a intergender tag match. It was Kenny and Riho taking on Antonio Honda and Miyu Yamashita. But Kenny did state it in an interview when he talked to when they asked him about Miyu Yamashita. But he did explain, he asked the feedback with Riho, asking her, well, how does she feel about her going to AEW? And I think that was possibly the plan, maybe for her to come down. But the real thing is, we weren't sure when she would be again. The last time she traveled outside of Japan was in 2019. However, now the door is opening. Recently, you probably ask yourselves, why did they book her now? Well, if you guys know this or not, she participated in an excursion as well for Deadlock Pro Wrestling with Miyuki Takase. But I'm sure they were hoping to have her appear because they wanted her around. And I'm sure that, don't know when she'll be actually returning to Japan, but she does have another excursion later on in July in Spain. But the match itself, I felt they could have done something better. Like maybe have her be one-on-one with someone like either Kiera Hogan or Red Velvet, one of the two. But I feel they could have done that. That way fans get more introduction with her more. Those who are still unfamiliar with her work. I mean, I've seen her many times. I have to say she is very talented, one of the top wrestlers in Tokyo Pro. But the match itself was pretty good. I like to say her teamwork with Sky Blue was okay. But however, it was Sky Blue who lost when Serena Deeb applied the submission move with the leg lock, and boom, it was over. But the real question does remain, will we ever see Miyu Yamashita? Well, we don't know, but we'll find out hopefully in the future, but we can't wait to see her again. So I believe let's move on with the press conference for Stardom's Fight to the Top. Okay, if you guys haven't seen the press conference for Stardom's Fight to the Top, that's going to take place on the 26th of June. It's going to take place in Nagoya, in case you guys are wondering where it's going to be at. But yeah, first match was announced was Ruka versus Waka Tsukiyama versus Unagi Sayaka. Now, you ask yourselves this obvious question. Oh, at least Waka will have someone to rely on in this match. That is somewhat true. However, the translation from what it was being told, Ruka kind of questions about Waka's status. As you know, Waka still hasn't picked up her first victory. Waka responded saying that there are people that take longer to pick up their first win, and that is amongst those people. So Waka is willing to admit that. But Unagi had a different say about this. I don't know if this is more of a tough love type of thing, or more like, okay, I'm letting my hand go and you do this on your own, that sort of thing. Unagi did tell her, say this is not going to be a 2-on-1 type of match. It's a 3-way. I don't know if she's trying to tell Waka, you need to wake up. This is going to be a 3-way. Despite the fact that we're in the same team, you need to start thinking. And while everybody else was, I don't know if Waka was thinking the same thing. Because we know Unagi loves Waka. We know they care so much for her ever since Mai Sakurai betrayed them. But hopefully this will put her in a bigger storyline, telling her she could pick up her first win, but the only thing is, when will it happen? Who will be the first one to fall? That's the obvious question. Next up, we have tag team action. Stars consisting of Saya Ida and Momo Kogo taking on Queen's Quest, Miyu Amasaki, and Lady C. On record, I want to put this that Amasaki wasn't there, but Momo stated that she was disappointed that she lost to Amasaki in the matches for the qualifying rounds in the 5-star Grand Prix. But she said that she will not lose to Amasaki in a tag team match. That is what she vowed. Next up, we got Emeka of DDM versus Cosmic Angels, Mina Shirakawa. Now, you probably ask, what's so special about this match? Why? I don't see the significance. Well, according to the translations, it turns out that Himeka and Mina used to be friends. Well, should I say best friends, and they build one of those friendship rings types. But what I don't know if you guys notice when it comes to DDM, they basically let go of the past and they forget they ever had friends. That's the kind of thing. But I don't know what Emeka's plan was. Basically, she was wearing Mina's shirt and a towel, but she ripped it off and she used the towel to choke her out. Now, you may have seen Dark Mina, or Bloodthirsty Mina, or Dark Angel Mina. Some people were saying this on Twitter, that we're going to see Rambo Mina, because she put the towel like a headband like Rambo. I don't know, but I'll be surprised, to be honest with you. Now, our next match is been now official. This is for the Artists of Stardom Championships. This began in one of the much recent events where Julia pinned Saki Kashima in a tag match. That gave, of course, DDM a chance to fight for the Artist belts. Now, Julia, as you know, came up short for the Goddesses with Mai Sakurai, and once again, she decided to drag her into a match where they believed they could win. However, this particular match was later turned into a 3-way with the request of God's Eye. Now, this is where I find this thing interesting in the press conference. You look at two of the most dominating factions within Stardom. You look at DDM. They have proven they've been dominant. However, they haven't been the same dominant unit since Suri left. However, you got God's Eye, who has proven to pick up good victories. As you know, Mirai was this year's ever Cinderella champion. Suri is the red belt champion. So that kind of tells us. But however, I think Oda Tai is going to play the smart game here. Now, if you guys probably ask me, why is that? Simple. They see exactly what they see in both these units. You see, these are two of the dominant factions. You can say that sooner or later, both factions in a 3-way are going to destroy each other, giving Oda Tai the opportunity to step out and let them beat the crap out of each other. That's the plan. Even Sakurai tried to take things seriously, saying that they're here to wrestle, not throw in some shenanigans. But the thing is this, Starlight Kid is never wrong about anything. She did broke DDM, more specifically Hime Boy, from their dreams to continue the record, to build up more wins, to have and what makes them so certain? Because here's the problem. God's Eye and DDM are at war with each other, regardless. Is Oda Tai going to walk out? We'll just find out. Now, our next match, this is more of a grudge match between two old friends, now enemies. Tam Nakano, the leader of Cosmic Angels, versus DDM's Natsupoi. Now, if you guys been aware of their history, they used to be close friends. But ever since arriving to Stardom, Natsupoi, on the other hand, has grown a bit of a jealousy towards Tam Nakano due to the fact that she was gaining all the attention, all the notoriety. Natsupoi felt that should have been her. However, recently, Natsupoi in the post-match event was telling her, you should just retire. But Tam did not take that kindly because Natsupoi believes that Tam has lost the fire that she once had, the passion she had for pro wrestling. Because here's the thing, Tam was right about DDM. They're not strong or invincible like they thought they were. They have lost big matches. But what makes her so certain? Even Natsupoi had to say she's not the same, that she hasn't been the same since she lost the white belt. Yes, she can admit that nothing has changed for her. She is still the same person. But Natsupoi is not convinced. She decided to humiliate her by bringing homemade food. I don't know what the purpose was. Even they ruined their dresses. But however, Tam Nakano decided to throw a little curveball here. She decided to turn this match into a cage match. Why is that? Well, our main event is a cage match. So we're going to have 2 cage matches. And that's now been official. However, our main event is between stars, consistent of Mayu Iwatani, Azuki, and Koguma versus Queen's Quest with Tami Hayashida, Saya Kamitani, and Uzumi. Now, Azumi, as you know, Koguma has accused Azumi for trying to take the fight outside. So she had the idea, let's turn this into a steel cage match. That's always been a very interesting development. I don't think there's ever been a cage match in the history of Stardom. And this is going to be the first. I'm kind of excited and curious how this is going to go. But this one, it has a twist. It's an escapes rules match. Yes, you got to get the fudge out of the damn cage. That's the whole point. So I can't wait to see this. So it's going to be interesting. But I want to make a note. I don't know if you guys saw the press conference. You can see it in YouTube. I did not see Waka in the group shot. I don't know if she was thinking about what happened about the 3-way. I don't know. We'll just have to wait and see what happens. But I hope she's okay, because I try to see if she's any response to what happened with Unagi for what she said. But we'll see what happens then. So let's move on to our last thing we're going to do, news updates. Okay, so welcome to the news updates here. So let's get started. First things first, updates on the Konosuke Takeshita expedition. As you know, he left Japan to participate in the U.S. Participating in various promotions. However, two different developments have taken place. First one, it appears that Konosuke Takeshita will be flying over the Atlantic, and he will be heading to the UK for Progress Wrestling. I'm excited for that. This is going to be part of the Deadly Viper tour that they are being holding in the towns of Sheffield and Newcastle. So it's still unclear no information yet on his opponent or opponents involved in these particular times. However, more information, I did mention this before, he has been announced for the participation for JCW's The Great American Birthday Bash on the 10th. His opponent is going to be Wildheart Cole Raddock. Now, Fightful Select has confirmed about this, about Io Shirai. It's been confirmed now that Io Shirai has not been seen for almost 2 months. It turns out that she's out on injury. She's going to be out of action for quite some time. But however, there is no specifics or details on how she obtained the injury or what type of injury has been told. So hopefully, whatever information can come out, we'll find out sooner or later. Now, for all you New Japan and Stardom fans out there, if you guys heard the news or not, November 20th, there's going to be a joint event by Stardom and New Japan Pro Wrestling. As you know, they're part of the Bushiroad company and they own them, so I can't wait to see it. It's going to be awesome to see. Now, speaking of Stardom, It's now been told the icon, one of the last the ace of stardom, Mayu Iwatani, there's going to be a real life story film based on her. Now, if you guys knew her history or not, Mayu Iwatani came from a small town. Basically, she fled because of certain circumstances that took place over there. She was the new girl who didn't know where to go. And it's kind of interesting how she left that world to become one of the biggest stars in Yoshi wrestling in Stardom and specifically. So I think that's going to be good. The movie's going to be called Ponkotsu, I think. Ponkotsu, I think that's what's. I hope I pronounced it right, which translate into useless or unreliable. So whatever it is about that, but don't know. The movie was scripted by Yoshiki Watanabe, who did a couple of things in a Netflix series called Alice in Borderland, and of course the movie will be directed by Jun Yokido. Now, interesting developments have taken place in Pro Wrestling Noah. Timothy Thatcher appeared. Apparently, he became the mystery partner for Hideki Suzuki. Now, you probably ask yourselves, do they know each other? I'm sure they have met in NXT when both of them had their time there. He was there, and I'm like excited. So it's a perfect fit for him. So I'm not sure if he's going to be a member of Sugi Uragun, but I'm kind of curious on that front because we just saw recently they just allowing foreign wrestlers to make their way to Pro Wrestling Noah again, so I'm kind of excited. Now, if you guys are fans of ICW No Holds Barred, it's been announced for the Pit Fight 10 on August 27th that there's going to be a 16-man tournament with a double main event. I'm kind of curious about that. I just don't know who's going to be in it yet, but I will follow up on this one as soon as possible. Now, for all you GCW fans out there, well, it looks like GCW is going to go across the pond from the Atlantic all the way to Liverpool, UK. And of course, this is going to take place for a couple of days from the 15th and 17th of September, and it's already been confirmed Effie will be in action over there. So let's see how the British feel about this guy being there. Now, recently, if you guys know this or not, Jun Akiyama, who's currently with DDT, has announced that he wants to wrestle Eddie Kingston. Now, keep in mind, DDT Pro Wrestling and AEW do have a working relationship to bring talent from Japan to the US or US to Japan. The reason Jun Akiyama wants to wrestle, if you guys know this, he came from All Japan Pro Wrestling. He knows about Kings Road. So does Eddie Kingston. It seems like it's a perfect match we could watch. So it's still unclear when will happen or will Eddie Kingston will respond to it. Now, our final update, if you guys are fans of Ganbare Pro, it was announced that it was surprised that we had Minoru Suzuki made his appearance. Now, some of you are saying, wait a minute, is he with New Japan? No. Those who do know, they know this. Those who don't, I'll tell you anyway. Minoru Suzuki is not officially with New Japan. He's a freelancer. He can go anywhere he wants. He's been with DDT before. He's been everywhere around the world as a freelancer. So he goes where they're paying him to go. So he's going to be appearing on the event on the 10th of July for Wrestle Sekigahara, and his opponent is none other than Tsushihiro Katsumara. So I haven't seen the event, but I can't wait to see it. As you know, there's been a lot of things that took place that is involving in the Wrestle Sekigahara, such as we have, of course, Unagi making her appearance to take on Yuna Mazane, her old mentor, and many other things. So I think that's pretty much it. So let's just call it a day. Well, I hope everybody enjoys this episode. Sorry it took this long because I've been busy on my vacation, getting to know family. I just recently went on a boat trip. That's right, on a boat trip. I enjoyed myself. I will be releasing the next one, which is Tuesday Wrestling. A lot of things have developed in NWA, AEW Dark, and of course NXT 2.0. There will be maybe some news updates on that. Just be patient with me and I'll get that done as soon as possible. And we'll see what happens on Wednesday when we have AEW. As you know, things have now been developed, and I think we're building up for, of course, the Forbidden Door, which I'm excited for. So I think that's pretty much it. So I'll see you guys in the next DWZ time. Same DWZ channel. I must bid all of you adieu. So, goodbye. Mwah. And have a nice day. Bang.